Bjergsen's struggling, and Loco, the actual cocksucker Loco, is
What?
calling this guy still the best mid laner in LCS. Like at this point, Bjergsen would actually have to just chain feed every game, and Loco would still be like, maybe he was tactically chain feeding to allow Broken Blade to get priority in his lane. Let me check. Is the note right? Yes, priority. That's the right term. Like,
I love your viewpoint on Bjergsen. I love your viewpoint on Bjergsen versus viewpoint on Froggen. Like, Froggen with shit teammates. Look at the shitty teammates and look at what Froggen's doing with the shit ass teammates.
Wait a minute. Let me just check.
Go.
You are saying Bjergsen has shit teammates, right?
Yeah, of course he does right now.
Oh, how the tune has changed. Because when it was in the spring, you had all these motherfuckers like all pro. You were like,
when were they all pro for me? What?
You were loving it. You had Broken Blade like fucking second best top in the league or something.
He was at that point. He was at that point, and that's what we expected out of him.
Yeah. And now he turned back. Yeah, guess what? Then the clock fucking struck 12, and now he turned back into a Turkish league top lane player.
What is it? My opinion changed based on how the player has performed. Instead of staying with one opinion the whole fucking time, I actually thought about, this player is good, this player is bad.
Loco, my bad. Sorry, I apologized. Your opinion changed, not stayed the same. So yeah, again, as you were saying, Bjergsen best mid laner in LCS.
Yes, of course. I mean, facts. There's some hard facts that stay true no matter what.
There's not a single hard fact.
That is a hard fact. That is a hard fact.
Best mid. Then one hard fact.
Look at where would TSM be without Bjergsen right now? Where would TSM be without Bjergsen?
That's a question. That's a question.
The fact is, Bjergsen is so fucking good. Like,
overruled. Not a fact.
Oh my god.
I brought this out my court case.
Oh my god.
Stenographer, delete that from the record. That was all bullshit.
Oh my god. Dude, don't fucking even. Where would Bjergsen be without TSM? Where would TSM be without Bjergsen?
Oh, we actually, it's Freudian slip. Put that in, editor. That's the beginning of the episode. Even though it's not an LCS episode, the Freudian slip. We got him after all, boys. We got him.
Where would TSM be without Bjerg? Where would TSM?
Where Bjergsen would be? He'd probably be the starting mid lane Optic, wouldn't he? He'd get that last check, play for the boys. You'd also need another mentally ill fan base to protect him and people like you.
Oh my god.
Actually being really rated as a mid laner.
Oh my god. Don't even, like, honestly, Jensen is the only player you can even arguably talk about that might be better than Bjergsen this split for mid lane. Like, there's no one. There's no one.
I mean, when GGS almost beat TSM,
don't you dare mention Froggen.
It was carrying the game.
Don't you dare mention Froggen.
Was it who was carrying the game?
Don't you fucking dare. Holy shit.
I get lost with these.
I can't even.
Could you imagine if Bjergsen had the same teammates Froggen had now? Could you even imagine it?
What? Bjerg would be doing better than Froggen is. If Bjerg played for GGS,
I've got one thing to say
would be placed better.
I've got one thing to say to you, Loco. You told me that players get the teammates they deserve, basically, and that Froggen basically. So by your own logic, Bjergsen has all the teammates he deserves. You know Broken Blade? That's who he deserves as his top lane. You know Acadian? That is Bjergsen's best possible jungler. So you know what? Stop hating on Bjergsen.
Those are bad decisions that Bjergsen has made, but sometimes people make bad decisions. Like, that's just part of life and part of growing up.
It's actually Reckless who's playing Karma. But I tell you what, Karma's fucking playing Bjergsen, isn't he? Oh, shit. Right, this is going to be episode 74 of Listen Loco, later than usual because 4 people decided to talk about teamfight tactics, not even a real esports game. Basically, like a child said, I like League, but I'm not good at it, but I did like Hearthstone, and they were like, ching, 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 ching. Meanwhile, Loco is such a fucking clout chaser. Obviously, he instantly pivots into this game. TFT.
I like TFT.
Here's the thing. LS, this guy's on like LS 2011 levels of clout chasing, where you just swap to any new game, you try really hard for the first week and a half to become like the best player, and then you're like, I retire. That's the best to ever fucking do it. Like, he's trying to do that, except the difference is...
I actually like TFT.
In every game he pivots to, he just gets like hard stock in like gold 2 or something, and then he's like, this game's too fucking hard. I'm trying to play League anyway.
I'm plat 2 and climbing, and I love TFT as a game. I genuinely enjoy playing TFT. There hasn't been a game in a while where I'll just play it for the pleasure of playing it. A lot of the games I had to play in like the last few years is like, oh, I have to play Fortnite because it's the popular game. I actually did like Hearthstone, but I like these strategy games. Wait a
minute. At what point in time, under any possible circumstances, did you have to play Fortnite in the last few years? Is that like a condition of keeping your green card? Like, is that the only way you could convince like people to pay? Why would you have to play Fortnite?
So my management company told me you should really try Fortnite. Like, you should at least give it a try. And then I tried it for a day. I told them I don't like it, and they're like, okay, you should at least try it for a week. Try streaming, and maybe people will like it. So I
bet that management company, you're going into every time like, guys, listen, I know you're telling me the Storing guy's like a good mix for me, but I keep getting flamed. It's like really lowering my self-esteem. And they're like, listen, Loco, I'm going to be brutal with you here. After what happened with you, Riot, and all those teams, like, Thorin's your only chance. Like, he's basically Jesus and you're a leper. Like, just let him do his work, let him flame you, and this might get you back into relevance. And also, if you're really sneaky, just get him to book the guests. Then when he books the best people to talk about League of Legends, the biggest experts, because they're not big names, you won't be the most hated person on the show anymore. Checked out so far with Kelsey Moser. We'll see how it goes with the rest of them. LS is here. He usually says some shit that, you know, probably... What I love, by the way, LS is, you were actually such a hipster. You were way ahead of it, because you were saying Jin Green Wings would beat, like, Team Liquid or whatever, but no, G2. Whereas now the new thing is that Rogue, like for real, would beat TSM. Like that's like a real thing even, and they are like the seventh best team. Or something.
Oh my god!
I saw that on Reddit.
Exactly. Anyway, the one thing I've got to say at the beginning of the show, just so everyone knows. First of all, we're on a bit of a timer compared to normal, but we'll do our best to still make it roughly 2 hours if we can. Secondly, even though the whole premise, I literally told Loco something.
Oh my god!
4 or 5 days
Don't
ago,
you even?
Like,
Don't you dare! Don't you fucking put that
LS,
evil.
One of the best commentators in the world.
I will literally read you the DMs.
That is literally.
I will literally read the DMs.
Literally your home country. Like I thought Korean pride was a thing. Like I'm gonna go and tell Cloud Templar you don't even know fuck all about LCK. You don't even watch it. You have no dedication. I'm gonna get literally I'm gonna get your fucking like birth certificate ripped up in Korea by showing that you're just a mad traitor. You've basically defected to America at this point.
I will literally read you the DMs.
In spite of all that, when I came to the show and I was like ready to talk about LCK, you were like, ha ha ha, I don't watch
Sis,
LCK,
my wig is fucking in the air right now. Let me read you the fucking DM between me and Thorin. And can you do Monday 10 a.m. PDT for LCK with LS? We can do noon. Also, if you can throw me general topics you want to hit for LCK, I have to go back and watch the game. And then Dorian replies to me, Monday 12 PDT LS. Like, what the fuck? Like, I wanted to go back and watch the games. Like, I actually was gonna put in the time. You never fucking replied to me.
Right, so wait a second. Just so I can confirm. By the way, this part of the show is a waste of time, but I'll tell everyone anyway.
Go ahead.
This is an
go the fuck ahead
at this point in time. Like, there's a bounty on your head.
Okay, let's go.
All I need to tell you is this, right? So because I didn't give you specific topics, you didn't watch any of the teams or games, and you're thinking that's an excuse. Here's an idea for a topic. Watch the #1 team. If you get finished with that, how about #2 team?
Oh my god.
You know where I'm going now, don't you? It's not #5.
Why
it's
not?
#3.
Why not the two hosts?
Talk.
Why not the two hosts talk to each other before the show and talk about, hey, these are the topic we want to hit. Hey, this is another topic we want to hit.
Why don't I just write the fucking script for you so you can make some decent comments on the show as well?
Oh my god, why not just fucking pick the topic so we can go back and coordinate?
Loco, next Sunday, can we meet and workshop your part of the show so we can get all the jokes down? Anyway, by the way, Ellis, I think I can hear you through the speakers or something. I can hear myself coming back through. Can I? Test. Yeah, I can hear it a little bit on someone's headset or something. Test. Try muting yourself a second. I'll quickly test it.
Me? Okay.
Yeah, test it. Mute a sec. Test. Yeah, it's you. I don't know why, but I can sort of vaguely hear. You must have a stream on, right?
I have no. I have Okay, now it's good.
Right.
Yeah, right.
I can still hear myself. Can you not hear that, Loco?
No, I can't.
What the hell? Fuck.
Dorian, do you have the stream on in the background, maybe?
Do I have it on? No, it's muted.
So I had my monitor on, but now I just turned it off. Like my monitor.
Test. No, I can still hear myself.
Also, Duncan, you're such a...
I'll try and mute myself.
Oh my God.
Well, that doesn't make sense. So that wouldn't make any sense. Oh, wait a second. Actually, let's see if Loco tries talking if I mute myself.
Hello.
Ah, maybe it's just me then. Is it coming back through mic? What? Where am I possibly hearing this?
I almost hear you
I'll
twice,
reconnect
by the way.
the call with there.
Okay.
Hello.
Hi.
Yeah.
I can still hear myself through your mic though somehow. I don't know why.
Through LS's?
I can. It's well, or I'm hearing it through this call, but I don't know how that would work either. Like, what the fuck's going on with that?
If the only
there's a bit of a I don't know.
The only solution that would work if you're hearing it through LS and we don't know how to fix it is LS being on push to talk.
No, but the thing I don't understand is why can't you hear yourself through it?
I don't know, because it doesn't stream sound fine.
Whatever, I'll just ignore it, mate. It's not the end of the world. Luckily, it's not that loud. It's like low in the background. Right? Anyway,
also, like,
so here's the question: does that mean you didn't watch any LCK? Just admit it.
Yeah, I didn't watch LCK. I didn't watch LCK.
Right. In that case, you will have to play the role primarily on this show
of the host.
Oh, yeah. You will set the topics. We will talk about LCK. But let me think. And then what we'll do is we'll do something like, we'll do the first half, we'll talk about the teams, and then we'll do some sort of a discussion you can do, like what's the meta at the moment, you can contrast that with LS, and we talk about the teams going towards Worlds or something. We'll just do something along those lines.
Also, Duncan, recently I went through a heartbreak, and I've been on the downs, and recently TSM lost to Optic, I've been on the downs.
Been on the downs fucking longer than that, man.
And holy fuck, like, I've been having a shitty time, and you're just like fucking going at me again and again. Like, I tell you these personal stuff to let you give you a glimpse into my life and to like be nicer and like to have a better connection between us, and you're just fucking...
Listen, if anyone wants to know our relationship, go watch the movie Kill Bill, and then there's this Kung Fu master, he's called like Master P or something. I'm him, and Loco is like Uma Thurman's character trying to learn Kung Fu. Like, go watch that segment of the movie. I treat him with the same amount of respect. I train him in the same way. I give him the same techniques. And in the end, my preparation will one day probably save his life. That's all I'm saying. So anyway, right, let's get into this one. LS, everyone wants me to start the show by going like, ha ha ha, it's LS, ha ha, low standard. It's like, I don't do memes, mate. Like, the only memes I do is wrecking Loco's head every time we do these fucking episodes. That's about it. Like, I don't do memes. They're garbage. I also just don't even buy that angle anyway, because it's like, every meme I notice is like, haha, let's sell the things we actually really don't like about LS to hurt his feelings, but let's pretend it's a joke. So he has to laugh like, haha, are you enjoying this, LS? Like, yes, haha, can I have money from streaming as well? So anyway, in light of that, let's get into this motherfucker. Right, LS, the first thing to talk about, because we haven't done an LCK episode all summer split, actually. We haven't covered Korea at all, as you can tell by the fact Loco knows everything about, like, fucking academy level TFT players, but nothing about LCK. His home region, again, born in the country of the Republic of South Korea. So anyway, at this point in time, we've got a better chance of fucking North Korea reuniting with South Korea and Loco going over with Trump on the next flight for him to see any fucking League of Legends in LCK at this point in time. That's about it. Like, next time they go to the DMZ, if Kim Jong-un goes like, Loco, you want to come to the LOL park? Then you might actually see a fucking game and be able to talk. So here's the question, LS, is for people who don't know, the same storyline has played out in LCK again, where Griffin started out super fucking good. They looked amazing. They beat everyone that mattered. I actually had them, by the way, before this split. I even did like a dodgy prediction where I said they would win Worlds. I was loving it. I was like, they're back. They're doing it. And then they've done the same thing, which is in the second rotation. They've started to lose all these weird games. So where's Griffin at? What's the problem?
Well, it's not just a Griffin problem. It seems to be a problem with a lot of the teams right now.
Happened with Sandbox as well, to be fair.
Yeah, no, it's happening with a lot of the teams. Everyone seems like they're stagnating, and then Korea's meta seems to be digressing, in a pretty weird fucking way. They have an affinity for terrible picks.
Like what? What are the bad ones?
Kennen and Azir are fucking awful.
They do love some Azir, it's true.
Wait, can you go?
Azir are terrible.
Can you go into why Azir is bad? Because it's not just Korea that's playing a lot of Azir. Both Europe and NA play a lot of Azir.
Yeah. I made a tweet earlier on in the split when Azir started rearing his head, and you look at patch histories and stuff, and you look at the way that the mid lane meta eventually devolved into its current state, right, of Azir and Corki, and you just look at patch histories, and these champions got almost nothing to make them good. Like Azir got a buff in 9-7, right? Health regen growth 0.75 to 0.55. Base damage increased on Conquering Sands 70 to 150, scaling to 60 to 140. These are so minor. This isn't a reason why he comes out. He comes out almost as if a byproduct of like why Gnar eventually tried to come out, right? Where the players grow so fucking bored of the meta because the mid lane meta was shit for like 3-4 months or something unholy.
Oh, it was some garbage for sure, yeah.
Yeah, mid and top, it happened in top lane already, where top laners got so bored temporarily that Gnar started being picked, and then Kennen started being picked, and I think Kennen's just like a feel-good champion when you end up having success, and then whenever you just fucking fail poorly, you blame it on something else, but these champions have only ever had typically nerfs occur to them, or indirect nerfs occur to them, whether it be through like runes or itemization, like when all the damage runes got hit, that hit so many different champions, that it doesn't make sense how they end up arriving at the meta, because a lot of them aren't necessarily stat checkers like some of the other champions that exist in the game. And then it's like there's this mutual agreement that everyone's just going to play this fucking hot garbage. And then champions that lightly get
Problem is
tapped.
though as well, to be fair, Alice, like another reason why you will always see Azir if it's even vaguely fucking viable is because then the mid laner thinks I can be self-sufficient. Haha, no one can gank me now. It's like that isn't a good enough reason to just pick a champion, mate.
Right, yeah, there's that, and I mean, most players can't even actually play Azir, which is a problem in itself, even though Riot made him easier to play, I think, right? In
there was a
years.
huge patch where it made it so the biggest problem with Azir was when you do QE and you intersect with your Q with your E, the dash stops. But now you can do stuff like go forward and then go backward. The dash doesn't stop.
Yeah. So Azir got made to be a lot simpler. I just think the meta overall, with like Corki, Azir, Kennen, etc., is just one of the weirdest fucking things in the world.
Corki looks garbage every time I've seen it played in any region so far. I don't know why it's being picked.
They all look terrible.
These are safe
like
blind
Aatrox.
picks.
There are safe blind picks, but there's other. I mean, there's other champions that exist, but even they're not even just being picked as blind picks. Sometimes they're just coming in as like quote unquote counter picks, but they're not really counter picks.
What do you want to see instead of these champions?
Current meta is so bad that Aurelia is always good, right? But you can't
Akali,
just blind
maybe?
Aurelia. Akali, Aurelia are they're both okay, and then Akali started being more okay when other champions kept getting hit. So like you have Akali, you have Aurelia.
What about, I noticed a lot of people to Azir were trying to pick like Talon as a counter.
Well, so Korea in scrims, and I'm not talking about like LCK just recently, but I'm talking about like off season 2. Echo was trying to be used, but I don't like Echo.
All right.
Zoe, I think, is still completely reasonable in mid. Zoe's completely fine. She's still as obnoxious as ever. And people stopped playing her around April is when Zoe started to die down, like April, March, at least here anyway. Cassiopeia never had a reason to disappear from the meta, and now she got buffed, so she'll probably just come back with a vengeance.
What about, do you think Ryze should still be played?
Interestingly enough, the new Ryze has been played once, right? I think in LCK. I think that he's been played once. I don't know how he's doing in other regions, but I know that a lot of people like him.
Well, okay, so in defense of Azir, I was actually one of the Azir haters, but as I saw more Azir and I talked to players, I kind of got it. So whenever people talk about Azir, it's one of the most safe blind picks, and also it's a pick that always gives you push priority, and it's a pick that makes it really easy to play through mid. Like, there's no other champion that does what Azir does. Like, who would you directly replace him in the meta? Like, you're drafting for a team, and then you're having to blind pick mid lane. Other than Azir, Corki, are there really choices that you can do?
Wait. On.
Team TF, Twisted Fate, NA Special.
No. Azir Corki is obnoxious. I mean, so you have Azir. I mean, Akali up until recently, right? Up until 914, she was still fine. Even if you consider the matchup bad, right? Because laning phase alone is not always the biggest of an issue. LeBlanc is fine against Azir. We don't see it all that often. Zoe is still completely fine. Cassiopeia has been fine historically. Karma's able to go into mid lane. We know that that's actually just a thing because we've seen it so many times. Doesn't matter if she's up against those two champions. But the mid lane meta, I mean, now obviously Akali, or lots of Koreans don't like Akali right now after 914 for some reason. Aurelia is still viable in the middle lane whenever you want her to be. But, I mean, this is sort of we're getting to the issue where mid just sort of sucks. Top sort of sucks too. And then there was like the Silas thing for a while because he had the wave clear and everything and he could go up against whatever.
So how has this impacted these teams then, do you think? Like, why has it made the top teams fall off? Because like I said, Griffin was winning everything, then Sandbox was on top and they've started to lose. So what's happening to these teams?
they're just stagnating. I don't know how else to really say it. LCK looks. I don't. I know every time I go to cast, after every game, I'll end up talking with like Atlas or Valdez because I don't get to cast with Papa because we're both color casters, and oftentimes I'm always actually disappointed, with the quality of gameplay. It doesn't give me the same effect or vibes that it used to in the past. And when you see the manner in which some teams are just like losing game, like yesterday, well, 2 days ago now, in Korea, like Jin could have won a game if, God, this fucking hurts to think about. Jin had so many opportunities to win a game, and then just simple fucking blunders or the most nonsensical ways of losing just occurs, and it ends up just they keep their losing streak alive. But like the Jin losing streak's a really weird thing because this is the first time where Challengers doesn't seem that competitive, and
I mean, all the good teams are in the league now. It makes sense, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah. But it's only up until this year that's been the case.
Sure.
That Challengers hasn't been that competitive, but now Challengers is like a graveyard because there was just an exodus sort of that occurred for Korea Challengers for summer 2019. A lot of the big players ended up leaving, and then like BBQ completely deconstructed, and all the players aren't there. Mickey went to Europe. Jisoo's still in the league. The top laner Kuzan ended up going on to Gen.G. And then I mean there's literally a team that bought out one of the slots, and they were Diamond 1 players. They're actually doing okay in the league, I think, right now. Maybe they've improved, but it's the most mind-boggling thing.
What happened to Kakao? Is he still on APK?
He's listed on APK, but he doesn't play. Let me check.
Damn, Korea still won. I'm shocked that Korea Academy shit or Korea Challenger shit, because Korea is still one of the teams where you can still get a spot through winning, and you can get promoted. So it has one of the highest monetary value.
Yeah. So Challenger Series is still pretty interesting, I guess, but I just don't think that. I mean, none of the Challenger Series teams realistically should actually be able to beat Jin, as sad as that sounds. That sucks.
Anyway,
nice.
The thing is, though, like, I actually do. I think there's more than just a meta, though, LS. Like, there's got to be some sort of a psychological problem that these Griffin players have, because they've done this time and time again, where they just have these, like, that when it's like the moment they hit their peak form and they look untouchable, like the ceiling on the team fighting's fucking unreal, like Tarzan gets back to being one of the best players. Right after that is when they always just go right down the fucking tubes and start losing games to teams you should never. Like, it's one thing if you lose to number 2, number 3. Mm-hmm. They not only fucking broke their own winning streak against Damwon, who they literally used to own and had won like 13 or 14 games in a row against. But then they're losing to like lower teams as well. This reminds me of what happened last split. It's like, it's depressing because they're still a sick team on some level.
No, the players are all really, really good. I think there was even like a Reddit post recently that the Griffin players hold like 4 out of the 5 top 5 on Challenger Korea or something. The players are all insane, but I don't think that has anything to do with the competitive games, because that competitive is always a different beast entirely. But I don't know. The middle of the pack. So in Korea right now, the middle of the pack just ends up being the top teams that fall down and seem like they're staggering, and then the top teams. Korea's basically like the top 6 right now, and then 4, 5, and 6 are often just having issues, and then 3, 2, 1 are doing really well. But realistically, they all seem like they can all just take games from one another, which I guess is a little bit interesting because it would suggest that Korea is not really super top heavy right now. The scores are actually really, really close between the top 6 teams, and realistically, only 9 and 10 is completely just outclassed by the rest of the teams in the league.
All right, sure. Then let's go to some teams I'm familiar with and like kind of explain to me what's been happening. So SKT, probably one of the most famous Korean teams. I heard Mata's not been playing, and I kind of also want to know like how SKT did after MSI, because at MSI they had this like bottom oriented like team fighting style, and I'm curious because they were on a really big dip, and I heard they started.
They basically started out. I think they lost something like 5 of the first 6 series they played, but then they did like a massive turnaround. Like they've been on a streak recently, winning most games they've been playing. So they're actually heading up. But all you need to know is they were so far down that they're only now in 7th place, and that's after winning like 4 or 5 games in a row or something ridiculous. So what do you think, LS? What happened to SKT, and why the resurgence? Why did they get it together?
And why isn't Mata playing?
I would have no idea why Mata wouldn't be playing. I don't actually know any of the inner details or the inner workings or anything like that. I also don't talk to the players like Papa does. I think Papa talks with the players, but I don't tend to do any of that. I just sort of address the games.
Can Papa Smithy actually speak Korean?
That's a good question. I don't know.
Because obviously my dream is that he's doing the story I famously told about Monty, where Monty used to tell me every time that he was like having great conversations with Dandy in English, and then I actually did an interview with Dandy, and I said in it like, "Well, I've heard you have amazing English, so please say something." And he was literally just saying to the translator like, "I don't speak any English, like I don't even know what he was just saying to me then." And so it turned out, I've told this story before, so everyone knows it, but it turned out basically Dandy was just like nodding and being polite, like when Monty was just like saying, "So how'd you do that? I thought like your pathing was excellent." Like, and Monty had just had like dozens of conversations with this guy, like, I thought he was getting like inside information or some shit.
Sounds like Monty.
So anyway, I like to imagine that's
well,
what Papa's doing as well.
So, all right. So SK Telecom coming off Rift Rivals, they played up against Hanwha Life, who they have no identity as a team right now in the league. They're bottom of the standings, absolute bottom of the standings. And then they played against KT, and then they played against Jinair. So, I mean, SKT had the wins. Oh, those are the freest wins. Mm-hmm. I mean, it doesn't get much freer than that right now in LCK. So, yes, they're coming off stuff since Rift Rivals, and they did okay, or they did okay at Rift Rivals and whatnot. But, I mean, Effort is playing.
That's replacing Mata for anyone who doesn't
Yeah,
know.
but they literally just played against the bottom 3 teams. So I think as the next couple of weeks begin to heat up, I mean that'll be SKT's real test. But there's no way in any conceivable world I would ever judge them off their last 3 series, because if they would lose, that'd be really scary. It would have meant that they were vying for relegations.
So,
and plus, think about it, Loco. Like contextually, if you are removing Mata from SK Telecom, you're basically saying, "I don't want the SK Telecom we had before," because he was obviously literally like a defining element how they played.
Mm-hmm. So, LS, explain to me, because at MSI, it wasn't like SKT was hot garbage. They took G2.
They could have won that tournament for sure.
They took G2 to Game 5, and then it's just really shocking for me to hear SKT bombed the entire part of summer. Like, what happened to them when they got back from MSI? Like, what was the problems?
Well, I didn't think that they played super well in the G2 series. I know that it went to Game 5. I thought SK Telecom actually should have won it. I think it was 3-1.
I think in the 4th game,
but they were definitely they're not a team that should be sucking in LCK. That's my point.
Sure.
Like, after
especially
their MSI,
not with their players as well, mate. Like, look at the superstar players they've got.
No, right. They have superstar players. So one of the interesting things that SK Telecom has the English behind the scenes thing.
Oh yeah, the locker room. I saw this episode.
Legends basically.
Yeah.
It's crazy, but they do.
That's one of the first times I think that the West has ever caught glimpses into the backstage stuff. And I was actually so surprised at some of the questions that would be asked or whatnot, or the way that they would discuss certain mistakes or situations. So that was really weird to me. Because
what was unusual about it?
It was really player directed.
As in, you literally just say like, "Hey, you messed this up in the game at that point. Like, what were you doing?"
Yeah. Which gave me vibes of, well, not vibes. I don't know what the correct word would be. It was really bizarre to watch, because I didn't think that would be how it was. I think there's only been 3 episodes right now of it, but it definitely seemed like the players were really the ones behind all of their analysis or whatnot of what's going on in the games, and the coaches were sort of directing it, which historically has been how Korean coaching really is, outside of maybe a few Korean coaches. I think that Nofe,
Nofe is a really good
maybe
one.
one of the only Korean coaches that is, Nofe is one of the only ones that doesn't do that.
Zepha's actually
there's very few.
So one thing that's
go ahead,
curious
Doug.
to me is like Zepha's actually someone that's really vocal from what I heard, and then like he has strong ideas on how the game should be played, and for him to take a backseat, I'm pretty surprised because he's like someone that didn't get. So like when we talk coach in Korea, it usually means like head coach, and head coach in Korea is more of like, yeah, you do this, you do that, and like they're more of a middle ground between the front office and the team itself than an actual coach that works with players.
They're usually like a manager.
So that's Goma.
Essentially.
And then Zepha is actually a strategic coach. Like his job isn't to manage players. Like his job isn't to like talk to the front office. Like his job is purely like strategy about League of Legends. Make sure SKT, the team, is doing well in terms of like League of Legends, like on the Rift. So for him to take a backseat sounds really strange because I played with him before, or we were on the same team before, and he was really vocal. Sure. And hearing from some of the, hearing from one SKT source, I heard Zepha is a coach that's different than Goma in terms of like, hey, here's my ideas, like here's what I want to do, and I thought that showed really in Masters. And well, that's when I talked to my friend from SKT. So yeah, I'm shocked to hear that he's taking a backseat and it's more player driven.
Yeah, it's definitely weird. I mean, I don't know what the actual extent is when it comes to coaches in Korea, because my experiences in challengers is that it's very, very player driven. My experience actually brought me back to like LCS season 4, or now I'm talking about my time interacting with team. Yeah, my time interacting with teams. And obviously that's challengers, so maybe LCK is a little bit different. But I'm just talking about conversations had through the grapevine and interconnected, because one of the other coaches for a CK team spoke English. He was actually from OCE. He was a Korean. Spoke English. So I talked with him. I talked with several other people. And then some of the managers on other teams speak English and stuff. And I was so taken aback because I had an idea of Korea, and it was just apparently very wrong of how stuff would operate. And on the topic of SKT in particular, and also even Griffin, it's so weird how these lineups with superstar players. See, when I come on these shows and I talk about LCK, I'm always actually conscious of like, what can I say at this point? Because I guess it's like, it feels really bad to say I don't think that I can give the full extent of my opinion, as weird as that is. But
you mean because you're a commentator and you're worried about what they'll think or something?
Yeah. And as sad as it is, but I mean, objectively, I think that most of the teams have really bad drafts in the LCK. Griffin and SKT in particular tend to stand out to me.
Zephyr is a fucking bad drafter, mate. I mean, I think you saw that even at MSI. Like, he doesn't do a good job.
Well, they with such good players in every position, it boggles my mind.
Should be easy
over and over.
That's the whole reason. Think about it, right? Even when they do an amazing draft for G2, no one really gives Grabs any credit because they just think, well, you have all the fucking players with all the overlap. Half of them played the other fucking role. You know, well, like, no one... you don't get any credit for it. Zephyr actually manages to make less of the fucking superstars. So I don't know how.
The thing is, like, whenever I see someone do bad drafts or like drafts I disagree with, my initial reaction isn't like, holy fuck, this guy's a fucking bad drafter. Especially when it comes to people like Griffin coaches, SKT coaches, because I'm like, they must have had some information. They must have been given like a comment from some player where they came to this conclusion. And all I try to do is like, what information did they have? Like where they ended up at this conclusion, like where it seems dog awful. Like in MSI, like SKT constantly going back to Azir, or like olden SKT days, like them first picking Xerath. Like some of these things they do are so bizarre, and it drives me nuts because I can't figure out why they did it. Instead of just being like, oh, this guy's stupid. That's such a, I feel like, cop out of like actually trying to figure out what happened. Like something made them do that, and like something made them think that was a good idea. So
Yeah.
it's shocking. Like I really want to know
To
why.
be fair though, like the Griffin one's a little bit different because they even used to do weird drafts in spring, mate. The difference was they used to just win the game, so everyone was like, "They're geniuses, 700 IQ." It's like, are they though? Are they really though? I'm not sure about that, guys. Sometimes it looks like the reason they had to do those heroic M5 style fights from behind is because they had a bad fucking draft. Like, they didn't do the correct draft. They just were great players with amazing synergy.
Yeah. I won't ever, like what Loco's saying, I won't ever actually outright call out a coach unless there's some way to know.
Okay.
I mean, I know that I've told this to you many times, Thorin, on various shows. I refrain from praising or giving any not criticism, but comments about coaches in particular, because you can't really know to what extent they're impacting the team. And thus it's really hard to measure their worth.
What about this
then? Person.
As it stands right now, obviously, because there's been so much parity thanks to the teams that went up coming down again, in theory, if SKT goes on like a mad heater over the last few weeks, they could still become like a top team. They could be in position to win the league. You think they can do it? You think they will do it? I would pick them up personally. I think they're done, I have to say. Despite how amazing the player lineup is.
You mean this split, dude? Do
yes.
I think
they... Because obviously they need to if they want to make like the deep run, go to Worlds, maybe win League, obviously. How hard do the points from spring carry them? I'll try double checking that actually.
That's not something that I normally check. I probably should.
Points. They got 90 in. Actually, it's actually the same amount you get for first in both splits. It's just that you auto qualify if you come first in the summer. Obviously, it's the same amount actually for spring and summer in Korea apparently.
Okay. Well, I think.
Oh no, I was wrong actually. My mistake. Actually, it's that you get the same amount of points for second that you did for first in spring in the summer.
It's very rare that a spring split first place finisher under the Riot point system doesn't make Worlds. I don't think it's ever been done. I'm trying to think of a time where the team that got first in spring didn't make Worlds. It's probably never been done.
It's really
Kingzone,
strong.
Kingzone last year. That's the only one.
Kingzone, Sandbox, Griffin, Damwon are all much better than SKT right now. So those are 4 teams. Gen.G is on some weird.
They've had some pretty good wins.
Bizarre, they're on some really weird tier lately. Where they
Freaks have had a few games, right? Freaks have the odd game. They're still dangerous.
Afrika started out really strong, and then they started dropping. And then yesterday, 2 days ago, they played up against Jin, and it was one of the weirdest things in the league. I don't know how to really explain it, but it was one of the weirdest drafts I've ever seen. But then on top of that, they actually should have lost game number 2, but Chungo couldn't quite find his flash key to stop Keen's recall, so I guess that's a little problematic. But Afrika almost dropped a game to Jin, which is, I mean, that's saying something in and of itself. But they started out really strong, and then they started dipping, and their level of play seems to have gone down as well. I think that they're still good, but I would almost toss them into the same boat as SKT in terms of current strength.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
Gen.G is a team. Gen.G is a team I watched a lot of in spring. Can you explain to me what their identity became? Because they were a really weird team where they had Peanut, who was an aggressive jungler who loved to invade, but was kind of off tempo from everyone else on the team, where it wouldn't really fit. And their go-to playstyle was ruler ending. Like, let's get to a game state where ruler can carry us in team fight, and that's what we're waiting for. And
I don't think they're that one-dimensional now. Like, for example, Cuba's had a bunch of good games recently where he was like carrying. So like they get a bit more from the team overall, but like, I mean, Yukal's okay, but even he never got ever back to the KT form, and then flies on the bench. What do you want?
Wait, Yukal's on Gen.G?
No, wait a second. I'm mixing up my teams. I was thinking Freaks. Right, yeah. Fly for Gen.G.
Fly's not on the bench anymore. Fly came off the bench, and he's been on a tear. And his meta is sort of anti-current meta, which is his champion picks. I mean, he's able to pay Vigar. Vigar is probably Azir's hardest counter. So he's able to play Vigar. He's pulled it out twice in the LCK against Azir. So he's able to do that. He plays like Lux, he plays Karma, he plays Talia and whatnot. So he's just not handshaking into the Azir Corki meta the way that other players are. And then Cuvee is doing this thing where he's just only playing comfort picks. Cuvee is actually a really frustrating case for me to watch personally. It's very, very aggravating for me to see someone that's able to just pick such poor champions, and then the team still finds success with it because it's just not able to be punished. I don't know. When I watch Cuvee, I don't get the same level of satisfaction from watching like Summit or Keen, or something like that. It doesn't feel like something. Yeah, or Nuguri or something to that degree. He's not winning the lane with finesse or doing anything spectacular. It gives me,
when LS said earlier he doesn't like seeing Kennen at the moment, like Cuvee is the fucking guy who picks Kennen every time it's available, basically.
Cuvee was also one of the guys that was trying to make Gnar happen again. I mean, he's actually picked Gnar twice recently, both times against Kingzone. So, no, I mean, it really there's something about picking bad champions and then winning with them that really just, I don't know. And it's one thing to pick bad champions and win with them. It's another that you're picking bad champions because you can't play the other champions. Or you're not willing to play the other or maybe he can play the other champions, but these are better for him, which says something in and of itself.
I've got a question for you. What do you think in the current meta of Jace top lane?
I think there is only a few players in Korea that can or should be playing Jace.
Because the thing is, like, even though, like, I consider myself an aficionado of top lane, because I've obviously followed a lot of the great players, especially the Korean players. And, like, I agree, Nuguri is very, very talented. But the problem is, so many of the wins are when he just gets Jace. And obviously, no one's banning that shit, so you can just pick it anytime you want, pretty much. But, like, and they play through him all the time. It's like, it's hard for me to, like, separate out how good that player is. I feel like if Jace was off the map, he'd be, like, good player, but maybe he'd be, like, the third best top or something. At the moment, he looks like a stud, but he does get it every game he wants, pretty much.
Well, he has... so Nuguri has probably the scariest Vladimir in the league, and there's no top laners that really play Vlad. He actually hasn't played Jace that much this split. The last time that he played it was 27th of June he played it. He played it at Rift Rivals, one game. But aside from that, he's actually been pretty standard on the meta, with Atroxes and other picks like that, Aurelia, Akali, Kennen, etc. He hasn't played Jace that much.
Like, one thing I also think is making him look super good now is, right, because one thing by the way, Loco,
he just picked it twice recently. He just picked it twice.
He did play it a few games, man.
Yeah.
Like, because I know he played it against who was it in that match? Might have been against Griffin, actually. I think when they beat Griffin, he was playing it. So here's the thing, Loco, that's different about the Damwon team is, you know, when Flame joined at the end of the spring split, they had this weird like hockey line style jungle top, right? So when Flame played, they would play Canyon, and then when Nuguri played, they would play Punch. And the reason they gave was that supposedly like Flame's a better shot caller and Canyon's like not a vocal player, and then Punch was a better shot caller and Nuguri wasn't a shot caller. So the idea was you wanted like players who had communication in each of the pairings. Well, now basically they just don't play Flame and they just play Canyon and Nuguri, and it's actually really good. Like Canyon is like, he makes fucking shit happen. What do you think of him at GLS?
Canyon's really, really good.
Seems like a stud to me.
Canyon was regarded as basically the second Tarzan.
He was clearly better than Punch. It's just I understand the reasons, like I said, as to why they were trying to do it before, because Nuguri was like here's the problem. In spring, because he was such a new player, he was quite fragile. Like, he either carried the game or would get camped and just mentally break down. Like, you know that fucking image people keep posting at the moment as a meme, where there's that like hydraulic press and it presses all that like glass and it just shatters. That's like Nuguri when people used to camp him in the spring. Like, he would just be like, and then obviously his jungler wasn't that good, so he couldn't do that much. Whereas now you can imagine having a really fucking proactive like carry jungler and a sick carry top laner. Like, they just fucking do work in LCK, mate. They do work.
Yeah, Canyon's really, really good. Canyon so Korea has had a couple of generations of junglers recently, right? Where you had Clit and Cuz actually came onto the scene roughly at the same time.
Yeah.
I think they both ended up in China.
Dude, I've got a detail for
really
you. I
young.
don't know if you've ever heard this. I'm going to double check it with some Korean sources, but believe it or not, I know it doesn't sound legit, but it supposedly is legit info. Have you ever heard the story of how Clid supposedly became a pro player?
What was he, the gold team of players?
It's mental. He was literally Loco in bronze, playing like one trick, like not even jungle or something. And then supposedly, this is not even a joke, supposedly he just saw like the most basic Lee Sin guide on the internet that just said, go in when you land Q. And that's it. That's like question, and you know, step 2 is like question mark, question mark, question mark. Step 3, one of the best jugglers in LPL. Like what is that story? And all I'm going to say is this, Loco. He got all the way to SKT from that, and you're still not in Diamond 1.
Soon I'll be...
but that is an insane story, though, isn't it? What a mad talent this guy must be.
Soon I'll be higher elo in my TFT game than my league. Wait, Faker has stories like that also.
I mean, there's only about 90 million less people playing it, but you know, yeah. You do you, homie.
Faker and Meteos were in the same boat where it wasn't as extreme. They were both normal players, like they just played normals. And they were like, holy shit, normal queue takes forever. I want to go play ranked. And then they started playing ranked and they shot up instantly. Where Meteos was like some random dude that Sneaky and Lemon knew. They were like, yeah, we know this guy. Like, he plays ranked with us sometimes. Like, we should have him on the team. And then that's how Meteos became pro. And Faker was legitimately, normal queues are getting too long. I'm going to play ranked. And then he shot up instantly.
Indeed. What do you think of Damwon overall in LS? Because they're a team that I find really interesting, because clearly they can beat pretty much almost anyone at this point in time. But despite all the good things I said about the top and jungler, I personally don't think they can win LCK.
Damwon's really, really good right now. Damwon they're the team that I think could take it, but I don't think will, in the sense of winning Summer. But they are really scary.
Sure.
It seems like their roster right now of 5 is pretty static. It doesn't seem like it's going to change. I don't think that we're going to see Flame.
No, I don't think we'll see him at this point. There's no point, basically, because like Nagori seems to have got over whatever those issues were. So fair enough.
Yeah.
He's a better player.
Yeah. So he's on a tear. I mean, Nagori's... Keen's been wavering, and so you can make a pretty easy argument for Summit and Nagori for being maybe best top laner.
And that's pretty reasonable.
Yeah.
Where's Showmaker at?
They are really, really strong. Showmaker is good. Yeah.
He's good, but he's not like a master. He's not the best player in the fucking league or any of that shit. You know, he's like just a good player.
No, I remember there being so much hype around Showmaker before he actually came onto LCK. Like, there's always the second coming of Faker. We haven't even seen.
The thing is, though, you know what? I think you can tie this into all of League right now in the world. Like, mate, I have to say, in most regions, like maybe it ties into what Ellis was saying about the champion pool. I feel like mid doesn't really look that sick in any region generally. You know, like you think of all the different regions, like. Caps isn't the best player on G2. I mean, obviously, the whole bunch of players in NA don't even have to be the best in mid. Like, I actually feel if you look at, aside from maybe like Rookie in LPL, I don't think there's that many. There's not that many like stud mid laners at the moment in Summer. I've noticed in the regions I've been watching.
What? I think Caps is that stud mid laner. No, like,
dude, I don't think Caps is even like a top 2 player on his team. Right now, like I think the best players on G2 is like, I would say personally, Yankos number 1. And then I would maybe pick, this is tough. I don't know. But I might even go Mickey X number 2. I think he's a fucking amazing player. So
wow.
Just hasn't been the time for him.
And that speaks more on G2's talent than like Caps not being.
Oh, they have an unbelievable talent. Certainly, yeah. He's not a bad player by any means. But what I mean is, like at the moment, like generally, I'm trying to think. I can't think of many regions where the mid lane is going super hard. What do you think, LS? Is it tied in?
With what? What, like on the topic of G2, or are we talking about?
Or do you think that like mids in general just haven't looked that good? Because if you go through all the teams we're looking at an LCK, there's not that many that have like a fucking beast mid.
Oh, mid sucks right now. I mean, well, mid doesn't suck. It's just mid is very bland. In the
like
sense...
almost like no joke, Loco. Almost every LCK game. Starts with the camera in bot lane, because always you want to see the trade, and then they have to really quickly move up to top lane when the 2 fucking circles go on top of each other. It's like that's like every game it feels like LS. Like the top laner tries to just go in 1v1 or instantly get jungle help to go ahead.
Yeah. Mid mid has really strong players, but like you're saying, no one is really star standing out. Chovy was in spring, and then behind Chovy was Faker, and then there's just like a fucking Mariana Trench between them and the rest. And now this split, it's looking a lot closer. UCal is looking really good. Even if he does weird stuff at sometimes, it's really nice to see that UCal's back in summer, because he had just disappeared off the face of the planet in spring. But like you're saying, I think that top is, in LCK in particular, top and AD are much more defining roles currently than any of the other roles.
Sure.
Which I mean, it can also be a byproduct of the meta.
Sure. Which, by the way, is what actually makes a team we haven't really addressed so far, Kingzone, quite interesting at the moment. Because obviously in Kingzone, everyone knows they had a great bot lane anyway, right? Deft and Tucson are very good. But actually, I have to say, I've seen a bunch of games where Rascal's accounted for himself very well, LS. What do you think of Kingzone at the moment?
Kingzone, I think Nahun's actually been doing really, really good.
Nahun's the guy who replaced, who was it in the mid lane? Pawn, that was right. Yeah,
that's not how most people know him. Most people know him from the OG days and like that 17-0 or 17-0 loss streak. Like that's how most people know him. When I saw him play at Rift Rivals, I was like, "Holy fucking shit! Is this the same Nahun that was like garbage in Europe?" The turnaround's the turnaround's like fucking amazing.
What's hilarious is I can tell you, by the way, like European players still don't believe he's good, you know. Just probably because they've got that bias from before, but they were all telling me, he's just mad overrated, he's not that good. But he looked all right in some games. He's had some carry games.
Yeah. Nahun's looked really good. I mean, his most recent series, he probably, OG Nahun connected in his most recent series. But overall, I think Kingzone's been doing pretty good. Rascal looks competent now. Like, it doesn't look like he's vulnerable to other tops, and top is really strong in Korea right now. Cuz is obviously Cuz, and then Deft doesn't really need an introduction. Deft's really, really good. Whenever he has an edge inside of a lane, even when he doesn't have an edge, Deft is really standing out in summer. Whereas he looked like he was probably just the second best ADC. Maybe in spring, but he has standout moments right now in summer, and his laning phase is just really, really good.
The insane thing about Deft is, right, I actually feel as though if he wanted to have a career and be thought of as the best at your role, he probably did it the wrong way, unfortunately, because when he was, everyone remembers fondly when he was in Samsung Blue and how amazing he was. But the problem is, even though he had like basically a legendary career in China, like he was unbelievably good on EDG and they were always perennial contenders, they won tons of championships. Unfortunately, that was the era when people didn't really watch LPL. Like no one from the West watched it, and very few Korean people gave a fuck because they didn't think the Chinese teams could beat them. And if you notice, every time EDG went to Worlds with Deft, it never worked out. They always were underwhelming, weren't that good. So unfortunately, everyone thinks like they took a level down when he went to China. I thought he actually got better, but then when he came back to Korea, he obviously was on those KT teams, which just collectively were so underwhelming, you know. Like, even when they won eventually, they won barely. And that was like the one good split where they really kept it together in the playoffs. So, unfortunately, even though I personally think he has been exceptional in pretty much all of these teams, it's only now that he's been on, like, the bad Kingzone that he's looked fucking amazing for everyone to see, because you can't deny it when you have a lineup like he has now in Kingzone, and you're just carrying all the fucking games that you get a chance to, basically. So you can't carry them all, obviously. He doesn't have the teammates to do that, and the style even. But again, when we're talking about a world in which you go around the world, ADC isn't like the strongest position in every region, so I think Deft's a fucking stud right now, mate. He's still an amazing player, and he's changed his style over the years. Like, he's not just a late game carry now. Like Alessa said, he's a fucking good laner as well.
Yeah, yes.
I think part of like Deft not getting a lot of credit is due to his personality.
You know what I mean, Loco? Like, yeah. I mean, just
the timing of where he plays. Timing of where he plays.
No joke. If you look at his actual career and you watch the games, he's a candidate for best ADC to ever play League of Legends. Like, for real. Whereas everyone else is going to go, no, what about... It's like, mate, I guarantee you, Deft is right up there. I'd go head-to-head with Uzi on that one, mate.
It would go Uzi 1, Deft 2, but I don't think like he doesn't really have anything over Uzi.
Well, you're about, he's got loads more championships than Uzi. Loads! He might have like 3 times more championships than Uzi. And he did it in Korea and LPL.
Damn.
Because here's the thing about Uzi I, right? This is one of the reasons why y'all motherfuckers are years late to the game by not listening to people like Kelsey Moser. The reason I listen to people like Kelsey Moser is she had the inside track on LPL way before you all. So what's hilarious is you could. I'm addressing you, but I'm using you as like a vehicle for all Western fans here, right? What you guys don't realize is Uzi I in like 2017 and 2018 is the player you idiots thought he was in season 3. He wasn't. In season 3 and season 4, there was an Uzi I Worlds buff. He used to just go like 1.5 times better at Worlds, and somehow he was just so clutch, he just never sort of misstepped. If you took him back into LPL for years and years, I don't blame him for not winning. Like, you know, you can be on the wrong team, another team can be dominant, but he did definitely take blame in as much as like in LPL, he was more like Caps. Like he would either carry the game or he would like make a stupid misplay and like overextend or go for like some impossible mechanical outplay. It didn't work and lose you the game. He actually would do that for years. So I agree. Now he's an unbelievable. Like now I even said last year he probably should be a contender for greatest player in any position. But like there was many years where he kind of got away with people just seeing the highlight games or like the best games. And remember, LPL always had a lot of games he played in a season. So like I think that's just unfortunately people in the West didn't have the right sample size, so everyone kind of like skewed him too good. Whereas like I'm saying, if you go and look at Deft for real, year on year on year, what an exceptional player. One of the greatest to ever play League of Legends for sure.
He has been, but I would say like the main, it's not even a critique, but he's never been a primary focus. I know he's been a primary focus on EDG, but when the West knows him, like from Samsung Blue days, like people know Dade way more so than they knew Deft as like the main carry. And even then, like he got overlapped so much with Samsung White and Samsung White spot lane with Imp and Imp and Mata, where he didn't get credit there. And then you go to the KT days, and then you think more Mata, you think more BDD than you think Deft. Like Deft is actually probably the 5th or the 4th most thought about on that team. It would probably go BDD, Score, Mata, Smeb, and then maybe Deft, or like Deft at number 4. So he's never had that.
He's a fucking stud.
He's never had that like primary, like I'm the carry, like look at me outside of EDG, and then now Kingzone.
Well, here's the thing. Let's transition that to talk about KT Rolster then, because by the way, this just shows, Loco, how narratives like only go so far. Because I always tell people this: the problem with a narrative is it's like a pattern. The pattern only exists until it gets broken, and then there is no pattern anymore. So the problem is, it's like when people were like, haha, SKT has never lost to KT Rolster. It's like, well, if we beat them now, none of that matters. Like, that history just becomes nothing. It's not like it becomes harder to win the 11th game because they won the 10 before. Every game, in theory, can still be won depending on what the odds on that game are. So the point here is, you know, after spring, everyone was like, please, pray, come back to KT and save us. Like, I've got to tell you, mate, he hasn't saved them. It's quite depressing, actually. Like, they're not even that much better a team. And by the way, my beloved Smeb almost never plays. Now they play that fucking King guy all the time.
And Score retired.
LS. No, he still plays.
Wait, he literally, there was a...
Score's a starter still.
Really? Because I'm pretty sure I saw a post saying like he's retiring and going to military after.
I think he retires at the end of the season, though.
Okay.
I believe it's at the end of the split. No, he still plays. He's also, by the way... I mean, I have a side reason for this, but he's also not that great a jungler, by the way. But that is also because, to be fair, we had this discussion before. Do you think it's a coincidence in every region that, like, Score dropped off, Max Law dropped off, some fucking, like, Chinese junglers dropped off? Who rose up? Clade. Like, well, that's a different one because it's NA when there's about 2.5 people who even know how to play jungle in that region, and one of them is stuck on Optic, and the other one's in Academy. Anyway, the point is, all the people who are like the brain jungler, that just almost doesn't exist anymore, sadly. What do you think about that, actually, LS? Like obviously it's just a theory, but I've noticed that I feel like the people who were never like mechanical gods, but they were just like outpathing you, like stealing more of your camps, like that type of jungle just feels like those guys just dropped off a cliff. And to me, Score was like the ultimate example of that. He was the best at that, you know.
So Tarzan combines them both, right? That's why Tarzan was held in such high regard. But I agree with you that quote unquote brain junglers tend to be quite bad.
Whereas look at every mechanical jungler, like you're saying, fucking on fleek,
but
all Tarzan, Clade. Go down the list. They're all just mechanical studs.
Contracts.
Well, Jesus. Well, I mean, on fleek.
He's a mechanical stud. He just needs to be taken out the fucking glue factory and turned into some Pritt sticks so some little kids can do some fucking construction paper shit. I was actually copying it in control bit there. Fair enough. Shout out to my boy.
I think, and maybe someone can correct me if I'm wrong on this, but I've heard it way too many times from various Koreans. On Fleek is he's a season 8 Camille Xin Zhao, Diamond 1 player. They cut Challenger with Camille Xin Zhao.
Okay.
By doing, red to mid every single fucking
There we
game.
go. As though that's a
And
real
then-
thing.
No. Well, it's sort of.
Imagine, guys, imagine like a movie version. You know the movie
No.
A Star Is Born with Lady Gaga? It's like that, but with a jungler, and he's like red to mid every game.
No. But all right, so sometimes the metas they shake up to a degree where certain players that are often hell stuck in certain spots can just climb unnatural amounts, whether it be because of a meta shift or a champion buff. For instance,
Ardent.
Korea would always evaluate. Well, Arden is a really good example. Yes, Arden's a good example. There's another example using like Alawi on Korea. There's this player. He's actually permabanned now for
Magnoon?
toxicity, but his name is Gypsy Danger. And Gypsy Danger, anytime Alawi would even be considered, Korean pros would go to Gypsy Danger's profile and see where Gypsy Danger was at. And if Gypsy Danger was somehow 300 to 500 LP, they'd be like, okay, maybe Alawi's actually reasonable.
Right,
If
he was the canary in the coal mine.
Yeah, if he was D2, D3, they were like, okay, Alawi's not good.
Abandon, get away from Malawi. It's out.
Gypsy Danger was the fucking measuring scale.
They
to
were like, hey,
evaluate-
Gypsy Danger, how's everything going with Alawi? He's like,
Okay.
I don't feel so good, Mr. LS. They're like, abandon stations, he's dying, get out, everyone get out the mine, get out the mine.
So that was the way to evaluate that. But in season 8, I mean, there were so many fucking junglers that would hover or they would swing 300, 400 LP, and all they would do is play Camille Xin Zhao, and they would do these really reckless ganks. They wouldn't farm, they would get Moby boots, and they would just run everywhere without any farm or any thought or fucking anything. And obviously it's solo queue. And it was so volatile. And thus, the Camille Xin Zhao meta. But I don't think the NA or EU had to deal with Camille. You have to have hands to play her. So that was...
Wait, we
You know,
played
I
a lot
mean,
of
that was a
Camille.
little-
What the fuck?
No. They didn't play her in the jungle when she was like...
Yeah, he needs jungle.
We did
was
play
one
it
of
in.
the things
We
that-
did play in what is it? Spring.
No.
Wait, contracts
Not-
brought it out and people started playing Camille. Like we definitely did play
solo
Camille.
queue. Solo
Oh.
queue.
No, Loco. He just locked in Camille. He didn't play Camille. He just locked it in. Like, there's a key distinction to be made there. Like,
Yes.
Talk
Contracts has
about
barely
solo.
ever played many champions. He's played about 2.5 champions himself.
Okay.
God damn it.
And one of those is called Froggen. Ha ha ha. Anyway.
All right, so solo queue Camille Xin Zhao meta was really scary. There's actually there's and then also the threshold.
You have to realize, let me
CPP.
just quickly say this. LS, Loco,
Yeah.
even
What?
though this is not an LCS show, I'll just tell you the one analogy you need to understand about contracts, and then you will never again question Froggen or Golden Guardians. You'll understand the way that the team works. You think that Froggen's being selfish because he plays around himself, he gets his picks, he does what he needs, often picks self-sufficient picks so he can just not need to interact with other players. No, what he does is like that scene early on in The Dark Knight. He basically says to all of his team, he goes like, my plan is crushing this team with no survivors. And then a contractor's like, can I come, Froggen? And he goes, no, brother, there must be one in the wreckage. And then he just leaves him behind in the fucking fodder wall. And then he just moves out and gets the kill and like fade away, gets the kill and just goes off like, well, we lost the game, but I had the good score. That's all you need to know. That's the way the Golden Guardians works. That's the end. Froggen's Bane. Except he was the real Bane if Bane didn't turn
So
Oh,
out.
Froggen's a
the storyline
KDA player?
To be a mad pussy, and it was actually that woman all along. What a fucking garbage plot twist that was. And then Catwoman uses a gun to kill him because Batman couldn't win and couldn't win any other way. That is absolute hackery. Just delete the last third of each of those second and third Batman movies. Brilliant movies. Last third, pure trash. Hollywood sellout bitch.
So Froggen didn't
Anyway,
prep for the
what
late
else-
game split push and then got split pushed on and lost.
No, wait, hold on. The end of the I gotta comment on this. The end of the Bane Batman
Yeah.
thing. I thought that was brilliant to set
Why?
up for Robin, but then they never made the movie.
No, but that's the point that we're never going to, though. It was the end. It was the last ever movie, Ellis. That's why it was stupid. I agree with you. If that was like launching a reboot, it'd make sense. But in the end, they just did it to just be clever, like
Because he's still
and
alive.
then that guy in the most ridiculous fashion ever. I think it was like Matt Damon or something came out like, anyway, here's the keys. Oh, they're under your real birth name, Robin. It's like, could you fucking telegraph this anymore? Like, could you have the fucking like a skywriting like it's Robin, his sidekick, like fucking hell? And then he goes through like it's just absolute garbage. And then that scene at the end where Michael Caine, who's just been crying the whole movie, just looks over and sees like Bruce Wayne or whatever at that table in fucking Italy, like. And And it's like, what? So every villain in the world with a massive crime network couldn't just find this cunt in a fucking veranda table in Italy and just kill him with a fucking gun to the head. And go, hello, are you Bruce Wayne? That's how the movie should have ended. A guy just walks up out of nowhere, caps Bruce Wayne completely, and then later on they go, tragic what happened to Bruce Wayne. Anyway, here are the keys, Robin. And then like that should be the end. And then LS would be stood up fucking, he'd be like fucking Shia LaBeouf, just tears running down his eyes. Like,
Jesus Christ, that's the name.
That's a meme right there. That is a meme. Anyway, all I'm going to say is,
who's the Shia LaBeouf of League?
Probably Loco. Started off real good when he was young. Had a lot of attitude problems. Got a little bit too heavy in the
Dated
scene.
Megan Fox. Dated Megan Fox.
Basically fucked a lot of whores that were just up for the money.
Oh my
god. Then
also,
basically, if you remember, Shia LaBeouf basically wrecked his career by being in Transformers. That's like when Loco was the coach of TSM.
I love
then he
Transformers.
was in that shit Indiana Jones 4 movie where they're hid in a fridge. That's like when Loco tried being a support for Doublelift in CLG and playing Nunu because he was in a fridge. So he was trying to get the ice compartment to work on Nunu. I'm fucking too good at this shit. I'm wasted on this scene. Why am I wasted? I should be doing like stand-up comedy in the fucking Apollo or something. Why am I on fucking League of Legends talk shows? And I'm waiting for cunts to talk about a chess version of League of Legends before I can even do my act. Someone should get one of those fucking crooks out of like vaudeville and just yank you motherfuckers off the stream when I even come in the chat. Anyway, back to the LCK. Bring it all back. Before the Dark Knight, before all of that, we were talking about the LCK. Mm-hmm. So what were you saying about the junglers again? I think that's what we were talking about. The aggressive junglers, rise of the aggressive junglers.
The brain junglers, or I mean, if that's how we're labeling them, they tend to die out because early game vision is so plentiful right now. And with the roots being pretty much constrained to certain things, unless you want to be like Malrong and just flip coins, in LCK anyway, you can't really coin flip. You can't, well, laners I think are a big reason for this. I think that because laners got so much better as well at playing around the jungler, understanding jungler locations, understanding jungler paths, communication, about not communication like verbally, I just mean
I'll even throw in another element, LS, that no one ever considers, is the whole fucking bounty system means I've seen scenarios, you know what, I'm even remembering this was in the game where Griffin played against Damwon, and I remember there was a scene at the beginning of the game where Naguri was on, like, I think he was on Aurelia, and then he killed, I think it might have been Vladimir, right, under the tower. And then, oh no, I think it was the other way around. Maybe they ganked, maybe Tarzan and the other guy ganked Naguri. And what happened was basically, even though he died in lane, he ended up ahead in the game. Like, that's how broken the game is. Like, so remember, that's one thing people forget. The bounties make it so that actually you aren't playing normal League of Legends. In theory, you should take into account when to gank someone, if it's worth it, if you're going to be on low health and you'll get re-ganked afterwards, if you're going to lose all the CS to the tower. Like, there's actually like way more factors to figure out now than in the old days where you're just like, well, obviously a kill's good, I'll just go for it and be a kill up, right? It's complicated now. It's actually hard to figure out.
There's a little bit more going on with the jungle, but like you were saying, the really mechanical players are just standing out. It's a lot harder to be a mechanical player than
like
it is
Broxah.
to... It's just so much harder to be a mechanical player.
Broxah is a mechanical player because he grinds my fucking gears every time I play, and then he ends up being the wrench thrower in the machine sometimes, doesn't he? Anyway, whatever, that was pretty good. Keep going, Ellis.
No, yeah, so, I mean, the LCK just has so many mechanic... And on the topic of, like, quote-unquote brain junglers, I mean, I sort of... I mean, I malice this one, right? When I coached him on BBQ. Mm-hmm. He has the lowest APM I've ever seen of any pro
Is he a brain jungler?
player.
I thought he was just a flame jungler.
Both. So, but it was interesting because a lot of the stuff that him and the team would get into arguments with was mostly about the laners. In regards to, like, I'm pathing this way, you fucking donkey, why would you, make the lane like this, or blah, blah, blah.
So got his charisma from his dad, you. Yeah.
The team and...
By the way, wait a minute, let me just hold up a second. I have to ask you one question. How did LS, the guy who, like, the one meme that is true about you is that it's like a silver player loads in a coaching session, and then they're just like moving on the fountain. You're like, that's not how you move on the fountain. Stop. You can't draw an X. It's like you move here, here, and here because you don't want, like, you're not doing shit like that, right? So the same person who was your jungler in BBQ, you're telling me wasn't clicking every function key every 4 seconds, didn't have poker chips in one hand, wasn't just clacking non-stop, you know. He was just playing normal League of Legends, and you were like, this is fine. This is fine. Like, no way.
No,
really?
I got him to use F keys.
Okay.
I got him to use F. His APM went up from like 120 to like 180. It was actually a fucking meme or a joke in the house. Most of the players.
He did a 180, just not from being a cunt.
Up to like 180, which is still really fucking low for a pro player. It's really, really low.
Sure. I would expect like 200 to 300 is normal pro, right?
So for Koreans, 270 to like 320 tends to be the average, it seems. Just based on like random Koreans that I've coached, and I've had them use Overwolf or LolWiz and whatnot, but also just all the BBQ players. The ADC actually had like 400 to 450.
Makes sense. They know how to auto attack cancel and all that shit.
So, yeah. So he was really, really fast. But Malice was just so slow. But on the topic of like brain junglers, it is really frustrating. But I do personally think a lot of it is actually laner and jungler synergy.
Like, has it changed from how it used to be?
Yeah, by a lot. The jungler can't just path on his own accord now. It's like his path can actually be ruined if the laner fucks up something. But then likewise, if the laner does something right, but then the jungler's path is bad, it's just anti-synergistic. Lane manipulation relative to your jungler's path has become so much more important, and then most brain junglers don't fucking know anything about lane. They just path and understand their time management and whatnot, and so I don't know.
What LF just said regarding lane management, regarding to junglers, is so important. Is one of the key reasons why TL stomps across all of NA. Because TL, the way they do wave control bot and the way they're able to bounce it out and actually play it. So anytime you see double and core being effective and like playing up, like the jungler's there, like that's a really basic concept, but it's something a lot of EU teams do. But for NA, it's something almost exclusively that TL does.
I haven't watched enough TL, so I can't follow up on that. But I'll.
Don't worry about it.
What?
Don't worry about it.
What do you mean? What is there to worry about? What is there to worry about, Thorin?
Nothing to worry about at all. Doesn't need to watch TL. Just wait till they get to Worlds. That's all you need to know. Anyway, right. What about? Let me think. Of all the teams we've talked about so far. We haven't really talked much about Sandbox. We just briefly talked about when you bunched him in with Griffin. So what do you think of them overall, LS? Obviously, I think they're still technically #1 still in the rankings now. So pretty sick season. Whereas remember, they also had the spring, they were #2 for ages, and then they just fell off right to like they just slumped as the last weeks went by and then became irrelevant. So Sandbox, as stands right now, should go to Worlds, right?
Sandbox is looking like they're vying for Worlds, which is really, really, really surprising. They are the dark horse sort of LCK, that it doesn't make sense how they're doing as well as they are. But in the same sense, they're one of the most teams. I don't know if you know what I mean by that, but where other teams just sort of lack an identity, or they're clearly pulled in one direction for how they're going to play the game and whatnot, Sandbox just seems to actually operate almost as one. But they also have Summit, who's just, I mean, he super fucking insane. It's almost like when Afrika had Keen and then no one else almost except Ruler, and it was sort of like the Keen show. Basically the same thing's happening right now on Sandbox, but they're playing like such a team, and it's working so well.
By the way, we all
to get wins,
just so everyone doesn't go too crazy.
They're nose diving.
We know that Ruler doesn't play for Afrika. He just mixed up the teams there. That's all right. It's late night there. Just don't want everyone to be like, I got him. Look, evidence. He doesn't even watch LCK. He is just pretending.
Even I knew Ruler was on Gen.G.
It's all right. We know what you meant. You were just separating the two teams. It's all right. Listen.
Okay.
Listen, I'm not going to condescend to you. That's Papa's job, you know.
It's okay. Not everyone has.
I've noticed that, by the way. Do you want me to do? I'm going to do what only I can do in this scene, which is one thing I'm actually very good at. Is I'm a very good judge of character, and I observe patterns. So here's what Papa Smithy does. Is when he's on camera and LS isn't there, he's the most lovely guy ever. Everything he says is like, it's very safe. He just keeps it in analysis, and he doesn't even have to diss players. He can just say like what they did wrong, and it doesn't feel judgmental, because what he does is like, he's like some bluebeard motherfucker who's like the loveliest guy ever, but he's like, don't ever go in that room. If you go in that room, it'll be really bad for you. And you're like, what's in that room? He's like, never mind that. I'm a nice guy. Just don't go in that room. But that room is basically LS. He just comes and he takes out all his toxicity on LS and fucking talks shit and he imply like literally fucking alphas him. He's almost like leaning on his shoulder, like, all right, chump, what are you doing down there? You're number 3 as the casters in. And like he just does that, takes all his abuse out, and then after that he's free to just be like, oh, la 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 la, walking on water. La la la. Papa has come to teach you all League of Legends. Whatever I say goes. And then he even takes some of LS's ideas, like, oh, that's some crazy shit. I'll take out all the stuff about being like really flamboyant and like being edgy, and I'll just say it as analysis. And then he says it as analysis, and everyone goes, genius, oh, fucking genius. It's like a fucking he's like Elon Musk or something, fucking genius. And then that's basically a short version. Anyway, you can see that. Listen, Loco didn't watch LCK. I'm working with not very much here. I'm just trying to do what I can, you know. So
you have such a hate boner for Papa.
I don't.
Has
I just
Papa
know him
ever
in a way
come on?
you won't. Yeah, he came on an episode. If you want to know, I mean, some of the great things he said on the episode was like, you know, like SKT could play all styles. They wouldn't just play through the bot lane at MSI. Like Loco, he agreed that they would come on, you know, like strengths as the tournament went on and become maybe the best, possibly could win the tournament even, you know.
You literally say they could win. You literally said they could have won MSI. When we were talking earlier in the show, you literally said they could win MSI.
A lot of wrong shit. This guy says more. This guy's like saying wrong shit on the level of like an r/TSM poster. Like it's crazy. But anyway, no, I actually think he's a pretty good guy. I think he's a pretty good analyst in general. But I just hate it when no one ever gets flame when they deserve it. So I'm here to get my job. I'm his reckoning. My job is to give him the flame. I'm the avenging angel.
You actually play.
I'm an angel, so.
You and Richard Lewis actually play such an interesting position in like all the communities you guys are involved with, because like you guys, almost everyone involved in any kind of game are beholden to someone. Like if you work for a team, if you're a coach or you're a player, like you're beholden to a team. If you're a caster or an analyst, even as a freelancer, you're beholden to Valve, you're beholden to Riot Games. Like you and Richard Lewis are one of the few people in the scene that are not like really beholden to anyone and just say whatever the fuck you want to say.
It's all over now, Loco. This episode can't even go on Reddit.
We can talk about you can talk about Richard Lewis. You can
right. It's just you mentioned.
You can't just like post like everywhere like, oh, Richard Lewis in the title. You can't do that. But you can talk.
All over. You're done.
I know it's all over, isn't it?
Fucking Christ! You're about to be media banned now.
Right. Well, actually, obviously for this one, we're not going to make as long as the episode anyway. So maybe what we'll do now is just to round out the episode. Let's do some more abstract type topics. So here's a question for you, LS. Like, have you been watching LPL at all?
No.
Right. So, okay, in that case, you're basically in the blind at the moment. Like, do you watch EU at all? Is it just LCK you watch?
I only watch LCK the last few weeks because, stuff's been stressful. Yeah.
Right. In that case, you can't compare the region strength, but okay, how about historically? Like, do you think actually like Korea has a strong crop of teams just in Korea right now?
If it wasn't for how every team looks like they're getting progressively worse as the split draws on for summer, or not progressively worse, there's just there's no standout factor, there's no wow factor, and there's a lot of floundering right now. I mean, I still think Korea does good at Worlds, right? I mean, I always do. But if the question is, do I feel like super happy about maybe the 3 people that they send? I'm not so sure right now, but there's still several weeks until it concludes.
Sure. By the way, I will always appreciate just how fucked the minds of Westerners are, that everyone's like, haha, Korea at Worlds, what a joke. Just let me know, guys, which team won the most games of IG, the champions of the tournament who swept Fnatic in the final. Go and have a look, count which team won the most games of them, and come back and talk to me. Exactly.
What?
And then,
you mean
Kitty won way more, mate. And then secondly, he told you, Loco, that it was all misplays from Afrika. Cloud9 did nothing, and then basically they all just entered in the Svenska. Will you just fucking learn already? Let's bring that back again. That's like a good 20 minutes there. Right, open up a map, both of you. We're going to screen share, and we're going to start talking about towers. Like, who was right, who was wrong?
Oh, wait. There was a... What is it? If you want to talk about something historical, that's actually kind of still relevant. Ellis, what do you think about freezes nowadays? Because this is something... Not the player. No,
that's the next.
no.
He means like
right,
freezing the
Yeah,
waves.
yeah.
That's the next big macro evolution.
The problem is he got really excited there because he thought you'd combined like Frieza from Dragon Ball Z with Freeze, the player from like Czech Republic. He's like, holy shit, Freezes is in the game. Oh my god. And mixed with Jesus. Great.
No,
Okay, then come on.
And
Freezes, I think, are the next big macro evolution in LoL. You don't just always arbitrarily utilize a freeze, right? There's variables that have to be at play, but freezes are something that no one's doing that they could. We almost never ever see it, ever, unless a team's like hemorrhaging or they're losing, which isn't them freezing, it's them just trying not to fucking go out onto the map because they're afraid. But actually, on the topic of what Thorin's referencing, right, with the fucking Afrika Cloud9, not bringing up Afrika Cloud9, but you play Melee, right?
Yeah. Well, I play at parties. I don't really play.
Okay. Yeah. So
he's referring to this really old game for the Nintendo GameCube called Super Smash Bros. Melee.
Yeah.
Okay.
Young children and African American people play on at old monitors and TVs for $20 at a time, and then claim they're not esports, but then desperately want to be thought of as esports. So anyway, continue.
Right. So one of the interesting things that I was actually thinking about, because I've gotten into similar arguments recently, right? But it reminds me of like the Afrika Cloud9 thing, is in Melee, for instance, right? I make the blanket assertion that Afrika is inting into Cloud9, and then we get into the argument that they're human or something, they're not robots. If in Melee, if Fox is off the stage and Marth has the edge guard, pro players at the highest level, they would just say Fox is dead.
Yeah, okay.
Fox is always dead. Marth is always just going to kill Fox here. If for some act of God Fox makes it back on the stage, it's not because players are human. It's because the Marth fucked up. That's always how the pro players are.
Because we think the burden of execution for Marth to edgeguard Fox is really low, right?
Well, yes, but also Marth is missing the edge guard isn't an argument against the edge guard. It's an argument against the Marth who missed an easy kill.
Yeah, because we think the burden of execution is so low, like he should get this every time if you're a pro player, right?
Right. Yeah, so that's pretty much it. I think that the fact that the games being different doesn't change the fact that an argument against, if in this context we're using the edge guard, it should be an argument against the player, not the edge guard itself, right? So like when I'm saying just freeze here, and someone says, oh, well, they can't freeze because it's this team. Well, that's not an argument against the freeze, it's an argument against the team. But I find it to be so weird how in Melee, this would never happen. It would almost always be the Marth getting the blame.
Sure.
But I think it's because Melee's come way further, and there's so much more freeze frame data and all this other fucking, well, I guess it's a different genre, but I think it's easily parallels.
Well, let's go back to freezes. Like, so when do you think when do you think people are going to be freezing? Like around this time, like around this kind of map state, like this is when people are going to freeze? Or like where do you think this like props up and like it's actually implemented by teams?
When there's no neutral objectives on the map, and a large enough wave is basically handed off to you, but also there's not enough power or ammo inside of the opposing team in order to break some other and elsewhere. But I mean, it's weird. There's too many variables. You have to talk about the champ. This is why I'm saying like it's not something that you just arbitrarily decide to do. But I think that there's a lot of instances that occur in pro games in every single region where freezes are really good.
Right, here's the question.
I'm making a video on it soon.
Isn't one of the reasons why people aren't even going to have that within their paradigm of the game, that actually, if you look at the meta right now, everyone in the solo lanes, for example, picks like very dangerous champions, and they're all trying to be the guy pushing the whole lane and get the turret playing. So, like, in what kind of a scenario in that sense would it make sense for the person to do the freeze, would you say?
Can you repeat? Or can you
I mean, with turret playing, you don't want to freeze your lane. You want to push your lane in and take the turret playing.
Oh, you mean in the early stages of the game? Well, I think that depends. You have to ask yourself the question, is the 360, or not the 360, is the 320 or the 480 gold more valuable than 3/4 of a level and 300 gold denied via minions? Because sometimes the net gap is greater than just the gold gain. Like you can gain 480 gold for yourself, but the opponent is still going to get, or 480 gold on top of 300 gold of minions, right? So 780.
It's also the
can get
reason why
780 gold,
sometimes
but
you can have
they
like
get 300 too.
It's also the reason why, obviously, if both of you die in lane, but your lane was pushing in and then he loses all the minions on the tower, that's also worth for you, even if you were the second to go in that sense, you know.
And another good example of this, I guess, in League is like, for instance, if you ever trade against, or like historically, it might not be the same way now, but historically, if you go back to like season 4 or 5 or 3 or something, the notion of trading kills against like a Shaco was always beneficial for whoever traded the kill against him.
Okay.
Because the champion's EV, as the game went on,
drops off heavily, right? Yeah.
Right,
EV means effective value.
Yeah. Effective value or estimated value. So with that being the case, there's going to be instances where maybe 780 gold for the Jace, but giving 300, 400 gold over to the Poppy is actually less beneficial for the Jace than, say, the Jace gets 300 gold and Poppy gets 0. So
makes sense. Yeah.
There's going to be situations like that arise, but there's so many variables, and then it just comes down to understanding the variables. And to people that say that it's too complex to understand all of them, it's really not. The patterns are going to cascade over one another, and then it's just like playing a card game, ultimately, at the end of the day.
And to tie it into what LS said earlier, half the problem is just that pros do not think of it as a way to play. So the problem is, if you have all the top pros in Korea trying to figure this out, trying to do it, studying VODs, they would quickly figure out the best way if it was viable and be the best at it.
Oh, Jesus, I want to blow my brains out whenever I fucking have to listen in on fucking post-game analysis or something of why they lost, and they'll attribute it to things that just don't fucking matter. So they're not even looking, and I'm not talking about Korea, I just mean in general. It's so sick. They won't look at fundamental errors, they'll look at big errors.
Is this fans or pros are we talking about here?
He means analyst desk.
Right, pros. Okay. Oh, the actual real desk.
No,
okay,
I'm not talking about analyst desk.
What do you
never
mean,
watched streams with audio.
I think he means players who are in the game, like what they will think they did wrong, as opposed to his point is that, you know, fundamentally you might have lost the game by doing some mistake, not like the end player.
When you get clips of like listen-ins, right, of backstage stuff, and you'll hear the things that they're trying to attribute the loss to, and it's like holy fucking shit, that's not why you're losing.
I 100% agree with you. Pros say bullshit after they lose, but they say bullshit after they lose because they're emotional. Usually, like, so it's coach's job to say, like, let them blow off steam and then say, we'll go back and then we'll review and then we'll actually talk about like what went wrong. Like, of course they're gonna say some dumb shit like, if he didn't fuck up that gank in level 2, like this shit would have never happened.
Shout out Lordy Lots.
No, but I'm also talking about like freelance stuff.
What do you mean?
Freelance stuff. Well, at usually towards the end of splits, I'll be contacted by teams or pro players for like freelance coaching, and then having to hear the stuff that they think is going wrong is always fucking, my brain just booms.
Actually,
they'll attribute it to big picture things like, oh, we did this Baron bad, or we did this Dragon bad, and then it's like, no, because if you play this scenario out, you know, a dozen times or 24 times, there's always going to be a different end result. But the problem is leading up to it. It's 1 minute before this even happens. That's the real problem. So you prevent this from ever occurring, yada. But it's not just that. Basically, what I'm trying to say is that the areas that they're looking at for fixing mistakes is nowhere near thinking of like freezes. It's nowhere thinking about these things that aren't immediately in their line of sight.
What do you think about Loco wearing a wife beater, trying to pull that off as though that's just a thing now? Skinny Korean guy in a wife beater.
Yeah, I show up in wife beaters all the time, Dorian, whenever we do episodes.
Problem is, for you, it shouldn't even be called a wife beater. It should call like a fucking, like, e-girl tickler or something. What? A cocked e-girl tickler.
Oh my god.
That's your new fashion line. We'll set up a fashion line, Loco, me and you.
Yeah.
And you'll be the model for all the clothes, of course. Listen, fashion's an industry for you, mate. You can meet a lot of women. LS can come in. There's a lot of his people there. We can get both involved. The fashion industry. I don't know if you're aware of this, Loco. You know, maybe keep up to date, mate.
Yeah, there's
you
a
ever
lot.
heard of Versace?
What? Yeah,
I don't know. What did you say?
Okay, well, I wanted to talk about freezing. Okay.
Yeah, we talked about it. It's the end.
Wait,
it's
no.
the end of the free section.
Wait, what?
Right, okay.
I didn't, what the fuck?
My favorite freeze was when that character in Batman Forever, Dr. Freeze, was like, nice ice to meet you. No, anyway, what was your thoughts then, Loco? Come on, give us your bullshit.
Well, I actually think I think there is a world where let's say there's like 100 different situations mid game. There's like 2 or 3 situations where it's correct to freeze. I think it's very rare that it is correct to freeze. because there's a lot of things that go with it. Like there's opportunity cost of if you're freezing, you're not setting up for the next objective, even if the objective is up, or even if the objective isn't up, you can set up for the next objective. Like there are just proactive things you can do compared to freeze, which is a very like, it's a very reactive thing. It's forcing the opponent to, hey, it's your action. Like I'm freezing, I'm getting more XP than you, I'm getting more gold than you. Like you better do something and try to break this freeze. It's very, very rare that is the correct thing to do. But cause it's so rare and cause it's only applicable in such few cases, I don't think people are ever gonna explore freezes. Like most of the time, people are gonna work on like the 90 other cases that are more valid to the game. And I think that, let's say it takes like, I don't know, let's put an arbitrary time on it. Let's say it takes 10 hours of team's time to learn how to freeze. That 10 hours can be put in elsewhere that would be much more effective. So I think it's just such a small part of the game and such a minuscule applicable part of the game that I don't think people will ever put time in.
It's kind of like in LCS where they're like, listen, we could invest 10 hours into learning how to split push, or we could invest those 10 hours into getting Chipotle. Does anyone want Chipotle? Yay! Let's all pretend that's food.
All right.
Loco, you watch NA, right?
Yeah, it's my primary
Can you
reason.
Just link me any VOD? I just want to like scan it really fast because I think that the percentage to freeze is much higher. Okay. So I just want to like scan it
like
really
TSM
fast.
Optic. TSM Optic was like the last one I watched.
All right, wait. Let me go on YouTube.
How did you like watching a really good mid laner and Bjergsen?
Was there a second was there another mid laner in the game? Yeah.
Imagine Bjergsen went somewhere where he didn't speak the language. You think he'd carry? Yeah, he'd carry their motherfucking bags while he was the sub mid.
Bjergsen speaks European. He had to learn American when he got here. He's also speaking a second language.
No, he just got a lobotomy and then he knew it immediately. You can never beat me, by the way, with zingers. Like, I am born to do this, motherfucker. You have to understand that. Like, I have like a passive. It's not passive, it's aggressive in my case.
We're talking about mid-game phrases, right?
Yeah.
All right.
I also can't handle that, like, Pepega is like such a big fucking emote nowadays, because it just reminds me of, for some reason, of fucking Pegapar, which is like hungry in Korean, which is one of the few words I learned. Because then you just point to the girl's stomach, you go, Pegapar? And then she goes, yes, and you go, come to the Korean barbecue. It works. It works.
At 19 minutes.
Don't try that, though.
There's no reason that Broken Blade doesn't freeze the bottom wave. The camera actually pans to him.
Okay.
I guess I don't want
to... It would be beneficial for him to do it in that moment?
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing else for him to do. His team's losing. He's behind. Baron's not even up yet, and even if it was, he has teleport. But also, the enemy team has no mountain. There is zero fucking reason for him to push back the bottom wave so that he can wait for Aatrox to ping pong it. Now, if he pushes this wave, Aatrox freezes and then says, "LOL." You're behind. You're never coming out of your blue side jungle. You don't want to drag your jungler all the way down here, and they can't do it. So, I mean, there's actually 2 instances to freeze just at 1930 that I'm sure that neither team are going to take because they don't think to. And now he's casting his fucking flame spitter, and I'm getting eye cancer, so I'm going to turn it off. So
we don't have to go too in detail, but is there nothing for him to do after pushing out? Like, there's nothing for him to do. Push, get an early reset, go to the next objective that's going to come up. Push, what if it go behind the lane? There's just like no opportunity for him to do anything but freeze the lane.
Well, if he pushes the lane, right, and then goes into Fog of War, the enemy team, if we're assuming that Optic's sentient, they're tracking him through Fog of War, right? And with no neutral objective on the map, because it's not even 20 minutes yet, there's no dragon, there's nothing to fight over. They don't have the firepower, because if they go into mid lane, both mages are just going to cast their spells, wave clear, nothing happens, and then they're going to go back to the sidelines. And you'll notice that this loop happens over and over in pro play. I call it ping pong in LCK.
So there's no opportunity. There's no opportunity for him to be like, or for his team to be like, this is the next point where we're gonna fight for vision here. Like, we want to get pinks here. Like, this is the lane we're gonna play towards. There's nothing for him to set up by pushing and like having that time.
Well, I would argue, like, what's the vision important for? If you're requiring the opponents to make mistakes, or you're accounting for them to, whereas the freeze nets you X amount of gold and X amount of XP advantage over your opponent.
So like,
and denies them simultaneously. So that sounds like an infinitely better situation than accounting for mistakes. I have to really go to the bathroom, by the way.
That's all right,
Yeah.
because this is an opportunity for us to talk about the next episode of Listen Loco, which will be on Wednesday at 3 p.m. Local. Is that correct, actually? Is it Wednesday at 3
I
p.m.?
have to go to the
Okay,
bathroom.
sorry.
Sorry, fuck.
And that's the end anyway. LS can now go and take a piss all over.
3 p.m., yeah.
Just like he did all over
I gotta
us.
take a fucking shit.
That's the end. It's all right. That's the end.
Okay.
Okay.
Well,
I'm so sorry.
We
LS,
call that taking a Sven around
Alright.
here. But anyway.
yeah.
Right.
LS,
I'm
thanks.
gonna make a video on it soon. But yeah.
What, taking a shit on Sven? Fair enough. He does
No,
deserve it.
LS, thanks
That's
so
the
much.
end. End the episode.
Okay, yeah. Thanks so much for being on. Do you have anything?
Patreon.com/listenloco.
Oh my god. Any final shout outs? Anything you want to talk about? Anything you want to shout out before you end?
No.
Uh-huh.
No.
Well, I want to say one last thing.
Okay, go
All
ahead.
I'm going to say is this. Normally, you can't fucking stop Loco calling you at exactly the time the show's supposed to start. Sometimes he even calls like 15 minutes early for like a sound check. Bizarrely, when LS was on the show, he didn't make the group. He didn't activate the call. I
my
had to
God.
do it all.
I
all
was-
I'm going to say is,
I was doing
I'm
a
just gonna listen, Loco, this is how
I was doing a
cliffhangers
show.
work.
I was doing a
Listen,
show.
Listen, this is how cliffhangers work. I'm just going to say there's clearly something still going on there below the surface. You know, they tried to sort of work it out through talking about freezes as an abstract concept. Didn't quite come to, you know, a conclusion on that one. So maybe on the next episode, we find out what's really eating Locodoco.
Nice.
Okay.
All right. I'll see you guys later.
Wow.
Bye.
Say ya. That's the end.
Bye.
Cliffhanger
Bye.
ending. Cliffhanger ending. There you go.
Bye.
Clear.
All right. Thank you so much to our Patreons, especially our gold Patreons, Belt Pounder 420, Tobias Bernasconi, Icelandic C9 fan. Without our Patreons, this show wouldn't be possible, and thank you guys all so much for making this show possible. I love you all very much.